Your host, Daryl D. Lane, as always, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about in my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, the whole 9 yards there. Also, thank you everybody tuning in via Twitter/Periscope, Facebook Live, or YouTube live stream. Share this on all your platforms. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just type in Daryl Lane and you can get a little bit of the draft stuff I've been doing, as well as this show and clips and bits of my sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk. So we have a lot of great stuff to talk about today. Some QB rumors, also NFL draft talk, and the Buffalo Bills bring back Matt Milano. So first, let's start with this. David Culley says Deshaun Watson is Texans QB, quote unquote, right now amid trade rumors. See, here's the thing where I think this Deshaun Watson thing is going in. I think it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better for Houston Texans fans. But I think what's starting to go on is the cat's out of the bag. I think this is starting to become a situation where there's having to be coach speak. Everybody has to say the right things. But at the end of the day, they all know Deshaun doesn't want to be there. I don't know how much David Culley has had even contact with Deshaun. Like, this isn't even a healthy ecosystem to have a successful organization. It's like, oh, I take the job. But I'm not talking to my starting quarterback, right? You should have everybody on board to be able to build a program, right? You want people to volunteer. You don't want hostages, right? It's like you sign up for a job, and then it's like the person you're going to be working with at this job in the office, and it's like, yeah, they don't really want to work there. They're not really talking to you, and you get there and you're like, how are we supposed to build chemistry? How are we supposed to work together? It's like if you have an agent, let's say you have an agent in sports, right? Or a musician. The musicians, everybody, people in those type of fields have agents. Imagine having an agent and not talking to your agent at all. Not talking to your agent at all before you have contract negotiations. That's insane. It makes no sense. So the way this is going, it takes two to tango, and this is going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. I feel bad for David Culley and Nick Caserio, by the way, John Carroll alum. Next up, the Chicago Bears. I've had rumors that they're potentially going to offer a boatload of picks for either Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. Now, here's what I will say. I personally, obviously, let's say this. Mitch Trubisky is obviously not the guy in Chicago. Good guy. I don't think he's as bad as people think. He could probably be a Ryan Tannehill if he gets into a better situation. But obviously, Chicago's not working out with him. How much are you going to trade to get a start quarterback? Because I think if Chicago gets a start quarterback, does it put them ahead of Green Bay? Like, does Russell Wilson make the Bears? If you have to give all these picks, you're probably gonna have to give another elite player. You're gonna give Khalil Mack away. Like, where are we going with this? Does this allow them to compete with Green Bay? Because if they're not winning the division, then it's all for naught. Or they're saying we're gonna wait out Aaron Rodgers. So I think that's what the Bears have to decide to do. What I think Chicago should try is this. I would run it back with Mitch, I think, for another year. That's what I personally would do, because I think you don't want to, and actually maybe they don't want to, because Matt Nagy and these guys, they're on the clock. Like if they keep Trubisky for 1 more year, 2 more years, and they don't get rid of all these picks, like they might not be here because they might not get fired. But I think what you should do is obviously they had a little bit of quarterback ineptitude with, you had Mitch and you had Nick Foles. You didn't know who was starting, and they were a playoff team. Like, they were a playoff team. I think Chicago can get 10 wins next year. So I think you need to focus on rounding out other aspects of your team. But maybe they think Mitch Trubisky's not the guy, and obviously that's very damning. That's a very damning thing in itself. So next up, the Buffalo Bills re-signed Matt Milano on a 4-year, $44 million deal. $24 million is guaranteed. There was a lot of talk about Matt Milano, the Bills letting him walk. I'm glad they kept him. He is a fan favorite in Buffalo. People love Matt Milano. You think people love Josh Allen? Love freaking Josh Allen, but people love him, and he's a really good off-ball linebacker. Obviously, Tremaine Edmonds is the guy who kind of does all the dirty work, does all the physical, grimy stuff at the middle linebacker spot. But then next to him, you have Matt Milano, who's making all these tackles, and he's always around the ball. Fan favorite. I know people in Buffalo love Matt Milano. And also, Super Bowl run. Like, the Bills' defense, not very good last year. You bring back Matt Milano. Hopefully things are going to be a tad bit better on the defensive end. I think this is good news for the Buffalo Bills. And next up, Albert Breer reports that these were the teams that were at the North Dakota State Pro Day in Fargo. You had the New York Jets, Joe Douglas. You had Falcons with Terry Fontenot. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name. You had the Falcons coach, also Arthur Smith. Lions coach, Lions GM. Panthers GM, Panthers coach, and Washington GM. So yeah, GMs and coaches of a bunch of various different teams. Obviously, there's actually a offensive tackle there, Dylan Rudnitz, I think is his last name. Might be pronouncing that name wrong too. But tackle that should be a third, fourth round pick. But they also have obviously the big prize there is Trey Lance. My opinion on Trey Lance, as I've started to kind of delve more into the quarterbacks in this draft class, beware of Trey Lance. Do not draft. I mean, these teams, Falcons, Jets, Lions, Panthers, these are all teams with higher picks. If you're taking Trey Lance with the top 15 pick, your organization has some issues. This guy is not ready to play. Obviously, he was a man amongst boys and playing Double-A Division I football, not even the real thing, but just raw as a thrower. Very raw. Like, I think this guy's going to need a lot of time, and he's not going to be ready to play. He's not going to be ready to play. I don't even think he's close to where Josh Allen was coming out of Wyoming. So Trey Lance, long way to go. And lastly, Jock Kitna says he had a teammate who was drunk during a Bengals game when he was QB. Now, I do have to ask this. This is a question for everybody out there. While you guys were playing sports, and this can be any sports, in high school or college, did you guys ever have a teammate who showed up to a competition drunk? Or high. We can do high too. Don't obviously mention any names, but I am curious about that. I know a few people that have smoked weed, whether it be during while they wrestle or played football, but I've never met someone, or people who we thought was high, but in high school and in college. But I've never met someone or heard of people being drunk before games. I think that is a tad bit crazy. Just a tad bit. But I am curious to see if anybody has ever had that situation or heard of that situation or knows somebody. Of course, don't mention names. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Like I said, share this on all your platforms. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great day and God bless.